Hey there, welcome. Today we're going to dig into something that's kind of part art, part etiquette, and just a whole lot of personality, and that's garden markers. Yeah, those little signs that tell you where the basil is, or maybe, just maybe, they tell you a joke about it. We're going to explore how that little marker is so much more than a label. It's really a way for you to express yourself in your own little patch of earth.
So let me ask you something right off the bat. What is your garden trying to say? Because whether you realize it or not, the labels you pick out, from those simple plastic stakes all the way to hand-stamped silver spoons, they give your garden a voice. They give it a personality. Let's get into it.
Pretty much every gardener faces this choice, and it's a real reflection of who they are. Are you all about that classic, orderly, traditional vibe? Or do you find yourself leaning into something a little more playful, a little more humorous? It's really the central question when it comes to garden marker etiquette.
And you can see the split right here. The traditional approach, your simple rosemary or thyme, that gives you a sense of order, right? A nice, calm, timeless feel. But the witty approach, the deal with it or the chive-talking markers, well, that delivers a little hit of dopamine. It forges a connection, a little inside joke between you, your guests, and your garden.
And this table here really shows how deep this whole thing goes. You've got four main styles. Your traditional markers, that's all about pure identification, perfect for that formal kitchen garden. Then you've got the witty stuff, which is all about entertainment. These make for fantastic gifts. Custom or sentimental markers, those are about legacy, maybe for a memorial plot. And finally, minimalist is just pure efficiency, the kind of thing you'd see in a big commercial nursery. Each one serves a real, totally distinct purpose. So this brings us to the big question. Why? Why do we take the time to hammer jokes into old silverware? Well, there's actually some deep psychology at play here. It's this fascinating collision of something permanent and something really playful.
And that's the thing right there. When you physically stamp a joke into a heavy piece of silver plate, it takes effort. You have to mean it. It's not some disposable tag you're going to toss out. It's a deliberate act. It's an intention, etched right into the metal, all to create just a little moment of joy.
Okay, so this brings us to a really cool concept called information gain. Think about it. If you give a gardener a plastic tag, you gave him a tool. Simple enough. But if you give them a hand-stamped vintage marker with a pun on it, now you've given them a personality. It completely lowers that formality barrier, and it tells them and anyone who visits that this space is for fun, not just for chores. And here's another great idea: emotional durability. When we add humor to these reclaimed old spoons and forks, we're actually making them harder to get rid of. You're just way less likely to lose or break a marker that makes you smile every time you see it. And that longevity, that desire to keep something forever, well, that's the real heart of sustainable design, isn't it? So the most crucial point is this. The folks who are choosing these punny markers, they're not trying to impress some high and mighty horticultural society. No, they're just trying to enjoy their Saturday morning coffee out in the garden. And that is the real etiquette. Just being honest about why you're out there in the dirt in the first place, to find a little peace and a little bit of joy. Which leads us perfectly into the art of sharing that joy. Because when you give one of these markers, you're not just gifting a thing, you're gifting a piece of personality. You're literally gifting a smile. And here's the gold standard for doing it right. If you're going to make a gift set, start with 3 traditional herbs: your basil, parsley, rosemary. And then you add 1 wild card pun. This mix is just perfect because it acknowledges that a gardener can be both serious about their craft and have a fantastic sense of humor. It's really the best of both worlds. All right. Let's get practical for a second. Here are the simple do's and don'ts for using these markers in any garden, just to make sure things stay clear, classy, and fun. Okay, a few quick rules. First, know your audience and the style of the garden. Second, try to keep your markers consistent. And most importantly, make sure they're easy to read. Oh, and here's a great pro tip. Place them at about a 45-degree angle. It just makes them so much easier to see when you're walking by. Now you might have a few questions rolling around in your head about all this, so let's do a quick little FAQ. First up, does stamping "Let us turn up the beat" on an old fork actually ruin its value? Nope, not at all. See, since these are typically silver-plated, not solid sterling, their value isn't really in the metal itself. It's in the craftsmanship. In fact, that joke turns it into this unique little piece of folk art, which, to the right person, can actually increase its heirloom value.
Okay, next question. Is it tacky or rude to stick a pun in a really formal, buttoned-up garden space?
The rule of thumb here is simple. Etiquette is all about making people feel comfortable. If your garden is a place for laughter and sharing food with friends, a pun is never rude. Now, if it's a super serious botanical display for, like, educational purposes, yeah, then you probably want to stick to the Latin names.
And a real practical one here. What's the best way to clean these things when they get all tarnished from being out in the dirt and the rain?
Oh, this is super easy. Just use a simple paste of baking soda and water. Now here's the trick. You want to clean the raised, shiny surfaces, but you leave that darker tarnish down inside the stamped letters. That contrast is what makes the joke, the wit, really pop.
So, as we start to wrap this up, it's pretty clear that these little markers are about so much more than just identifying plants. It really all comes down to what they say about you, the person tending the garden.
And I think this quote just says it all perfectly, doesn't it? Life is way too short to have a garden that's just silent. It should be a conversation. It ought to say something back to you when you're out there with your hands in the dirt.
So I'll just leave you with one final thought. Take a look at your own little green space and ask yourself, what do I want my garden to say next season? Thanks so much for tuning in.